Hey folks, this is Mark Maron and you're listening to Tom Clark's Main Event. All right, do it.
This is Daddy Show. Step off.
Hey, welcome to the program. Thank you for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Clark, and you are listening to Tom Clark's Main Event. We're coming to you once again, as always, from the very spacious Boink Studios here in lovely North Kakalaki, and we are giving you today episode number 14. Aren't you thrilled? Aren't you just jumping for joy? You could just crawl right out of your skin right now, couldn't you? You're so excited. Don't even lie to me. I know you are. You're excited, number one, because I'm awesome. Number two, because I just haven't been here in a long time, right? I kind of suck, but it's okay. I'm not going to give you any excuses. I'm not going to give you any explanations or tell you what happened or where I've been. Quite frankly, it's none of your business. I'm kidding. It's all of your business. You know I love you guys, right? Come on, you're the wind beneath my wings. You know that, right? For those of you out there who have never listened before, welcome aboard. For all of you out there who listen and tune in and read my columns online, welcome back. And to each and every one of you, I will offer the customary laurel and a hearty handshake. My arms are spread out right now. I just want to give each one of you guys a hug. Let's do that. Let's make that happen. Come on, bring it in. Bring it in. You know you want to. So I'm not going to waste your time, folks. I'm not going to tell you about who I am, what I do. If you read the description of the show, you know that stuff already. Let's go ahead and get down to it right here, right now, folks. Let's get into the main event this time around. The main event this time is John Cena. Been there and done that. This is actually based on a column I wrote recently on my own blog, and I just said I wasn't going to waste your time, but I'm going to plug it anyway. Go check me out on tomclarkbr.wix.com/blog, okay? And I have yet to buy a domain because I'm pretty lazy and I'm cheap. So until I buy a domain and give you a catchy name or something, that's what you got to type in, tomclarkbr.wix.com/blog. Bookmark that sucker, would you? But this particular podcast is based on on a column that I published for my blog very recently, and is all about your boy John Cena. It's hard for me to say John Cena without saying your boy in front of it. I don't know why. I give John so much grief. I don't even know why. Maybe I'll have him on the show one day and he can, smile and crack silly jokes at me. Who knows? But anyway, this was published back on March 3rd. 2015, of course. Thank you very much. And the title of this column is called Ground Control to John Cena. For any of you out there who may be David Bowie fans, you know the song Major Tom. You know all about that. So that's sort of where I'm coming from on this one. But let's talk a little bit about John. Let me say right up front, before I get any deeper into this podcast here, is that when it comes to John, it's a hot button topic. Because there's not a lot of people out there who just kind of like John, who just kind of think he's okay, who can take him in small doses, or they're not really sure they're riding the fence. You either like John or you don't. I'm not going to say love. You either like John or you don't. You're either okay with him or you're not. There's not really a whole lot of gray for this guy at all. He's not one of those guys that you kind of ride the fence on. There's Cena haters from all walks of life, like there's Cena fans from all walks of life. That's just how it is, man. He elicits that emotion out of you. He draws that out, that emotion, that vibe, that willingness to, want to, buy a weapon and pursue him. And by the way, don't do that, okay? Let's keep this all legal, all right? And let's keep our wits about us, please. No one wants to get hurt here, least of all me. So there you go. But as it comes to John, we all know he's the top guy of WWE, has been for 10 plus years now. And many people around the 6 to 7 year mark were starting to look at their wrists, okay? They're starting to glance at the watch. They're starting to say, well, no, I don't know, man. I think the clock might be ticking a little bit here for John, right? But maybe we're not sure it's a possibility. 10 years in, and the hourglass has definitely been flipped, and the sands are running. And for a lot of us out there who I don't necessarily don't dislike John, I've got nothing against the guy myself. I will tell you that for me, the shelf life of John Cena is seriously begin to come into question. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Not the least of all, I should say, is the fact that WWE's got to try to start moving on. They got to try to start creating new top guys. Now, you can't create 2 to 3 guys to take the place of one top guy. In my opinion, you need one guy. You need one guy that's at the top. You can create some great talents. You can allow some great talents to rise up. You can allow some good talents to rise up and become great. But they cannot do that if that one top guy dominates. Now we're talking about Hogan. Okay. Austin was the top guy, but Austin didn't dominate. All right. Austin could become embroiled in feuds that he could lose. Austin could be in situations where, would he come out looking great in the end? Of course he would, but they could get the best of him. Austin never really made excuses. Austin never came out and cracked stupid jokes about his opponent. And Austin could work. He was just a house of fire in the ring. So people never really gave Austin the kind of grief they give John. John wins all the time too, like Austin did, but it's not the same. People just don't look at it, sort of in the same vein. It's a whole different animal. John's a whole different animal. He really is. The perception around John is that he is the top guy, of course, and that everyone in the immediate vicinity around him is only going to be as big as the company allows them to be. When Austin was the top guy, The Rock exploded, Triple H exploded, Chris Jericho exploded. You had The Undertaker, oh my God. You had the New Brood when Edge and Christian were coming up, the Hardy Boys, oh my God, right? And you had any number of guys who were able to fill the spots. Monday Night Raw would end with a tag team match. How often does that happen now? Can you be honest with me? Maybe back when the Shield were running together, sure. But these days, how often does that really happen? Unless it's a triple threat or like a 6-man tag or 8-man tag, and you got all the top stars in there. But to me, there's a difference between top stars and top guys. You got one top guy. And WWE has always run it this way. Any promotion worth their salt has always run it this way. There's one top guy and that's it. And that's fine. But you have to allow him to have sort of a fraternity around him of guys who are in that upper echelon. WWE, what kind of upper echelon do they have right now? They have John. They have Daniel. I don't really think you can put Dean in there just yet, but I think you could put Seth in there. Brock is definitely a top guy. He's not the guy, even though he's got that belt around his waist. Doesn't make a bit of difference. He's a top guy. He's not the top guy. John is the top guy. Okay, we're all in agreement on that one. But a lot of the stuff against John, a lot of the criticism, not only because of his work in the ring, because of his character that's grown stale in a lot of people's opinions, is the fact that John Cena has just such a chokehold on all the major storylines, man, that everything major that goes on in that company revolves around him, and that's fine. But that everything around him, he's the center of the universe. Okay. Now, for any of you out there who don't buy that or maybe don't agree with it, get over yourselves, because that's how it is. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that in terms of who he is and what he means to that company, he's the end all be all. Okay, there is no Triple H, there is no Rock, there is no Undertaker, there is no Chris Jericho for that matter. And you can throw any number of guys in the equation you want. You can throw any number of names against the wall. Dolph Ziggler, again, Ambrose, Daniel Bryan. Thank you very much. And am I a fan? Of course I am. They're not top guys. I'm sorry, they're not. Back in the day, it really felt like Undertaker could be put in that spot anytime. Jericho could be put in that spot anytime. Rock, of course, Austin, of course, Triple H. 5 guys, okay, at any given time. Jericho probably the weakest of the 5 at that time, mostly because he didn't really, to me, in my opinion, really hit his prime until just after the Attitude Era. Maybe I'm looking back on it as revisionist history, maybe, I suppose. But to me, in terms of Attitude Era, red hot, main event, world champion, I didn't really see Jericho like that at that time. To me, Jericho's best years came after when he feuded with Shawn. Still one of the most epic feuds of all time. I'm sure he hears that a lot. And I'm sure he recognizes that to be fact. I think we all do, yes? So there you go, folks. As far as John is concerned, he's it, he's all, and that's it, period. You don't like it, turn the channel, okay? But here's something interesting, and we get to the basis of the column that I wrote, and the basis of this particular episode is that it's beginning to catch up. We've been knowing this for a long time. Any one of us out there that's ever paid attention to John, pay attention to how WWE handles him, we know that it's beginning to catch up. And it really has now in terms of storyline, because if you watched on Monday Night Raw, okay, and this is a big deal, folks. I mean, again, I published this column on March 3rd. This was in direct response to something that happened on Monday Night Raw. And by the way, what better way to write a column in the first place than for a couple days after Monday Night Raw? Actually, this column was written the day after this particular episode of Monday Night Raw. So if you go back to March 2nd, check it out if you haven't seen it yet, because it's kind of a big deal. In that episode, something very curious happened, something that piqued my interest, maybe like nothing else has in a very long time. And that is a storyline moment that happened when Stephanie McMahon was in the ring. Okay, we're going to get to that in just a minute, but let's go ahead and get into the whole spiel here and let you know where I'm coming from. First off, picture this, okay, and ask yourself this, and if it doesn't make sense to you yet, it will soon, all right, hopefully. Here's the question I pose to you. What do you do after you walk on the moon? What could possibly top it? Think about that. What does a returning astronaut do once he sets foot back on Earth and realizes that everyday life can just not compare to what he saw when his boots touch an alien terrain? These are the things that a comic book fanboy / pro wrestling fan like myself thinks about. At any given point during the day, my head is full of pro wrestling, comic books, blues music. That's kind of it. I don't really got a whole lot else in my head most of the time. That's kind of it. So that's sort of where I'm at. Throw in some Zakk Wylde and Black Label Society and a few other things, and that's kind of the basis of my IQ level pretty much any given day. But these are the questions I ask, folks. This is serious stuff. But think about it. Think about what we're talking about here. Does the astronaut in question, does he go into denial? Is he struggling to cope with the real world he's been forced to deal with? Or does he find a way to make it work, to blend back in and let his life-changing moment remain just part of the job, instead of controlling his life from that point on? Enter John Cena. If you're John Cena, what's the next move after 15 championships and 10 years of being featured at WrestleMania? You get that connection? To me, it's a very visceral, very real connection. Quit thinking of it in terms of pro wrestling. Quit thinking of it in terms of storytelling. Quit thinking of it in terms of entertainment. Think of it in terms of who he is as a character out in the real world. Okay, John Cena has done it all. He's done it all, okay? And the direction that WWE seems to be going in right now is the one that says, hey, John, how are you? Yeah, we don't really have anything left for you, man. You've kind of done it all. So, yeah, well, we don't really need you anymore. I mean, is that something or is that something? Okay? I mean, that's some big time stuff. And I'll be honest with you, it's fairly surprising to me that WWE is even choosing to go in this direction. Okay? We expect John's opponents, his heels, to question his drive, to doubt his heart, and to believe that he can be bested. It's the usual routine for Cena's opposition, and one that is repeated nearly every time out. Almost every time John's in a feud, it's the same thing. The heel comes out, I know you've got heart, John, but I can crush you, and you don't have that much heart, and I'll take you out. And you like to brag about yourself, but you never worked anyone like me. And then it's, spit and vinegar and all that crap. And John ends up kicking out of every finishing move the guy has. Brushes off his shoulder, drops a weak fist, and it's F5, and Bob's your uncle. It's over. I caught the F5, didn't I? Oh, my God. As Austin would say on his podcast, I owe someone a beer, all right? I'm going to have to start giving awards out to stuff that's being caught on my program. I don't know what to give. I'm straight edge, so there's not going to be any beer involved. Sorry about that, guys, but I don't go that way. So yeah, geez, I'll come up with something. If you got any good ideas, pitch them to me. I'm all ears. All right. But anyway, we expect John's opposition to do that. Okay, and we expect John to come out on top. But here's the caveat of all that: Stephanie McMahon comes out on live TV on that particular episode of Raw and claims that Cena is not the symbol of WWE as we've all been led to believe. That he's just not. He's not Mr. WWE. That's a new one, right? The tone of Stephanie's promo, and if you haven't listened, man, go back and listen. It's big time stuff in my opinion, okay? The tone of Stephanie's promo was very clear. Despite what John does from here on out, he's got nothing left to accomplish, and no one will care about him in the end. She even went on to say that John may actually be sitting WrestleMania out this year. Think about that for a sec. Can you? Close your eyes and think about it. If you're driving, don't close your eyes. For crying out loud, let's be smart. Safety first, okay? But think about this. Imagine for a moment WWE's top guy, the one that everything flows through and everyone works behind, sitting on the sidelines for the company's biggest event of the calendar year. You got that in your head? That sound like a lot of phony baloney to you? Well, it should, because we all know that's not going to happen. WrestleMania without John Cena is the WrestleMania before John got there. I mean, that's basically what we're talking about here, okay? It's not going to happen. Rusev will eventually change his mind about giving Cena another title shot for the United States Championship, and then the two will face off at Mania. John will probably win. He'll slay the monster like he always does and spin the Raw after WrestleMania, smiling and waving at the fans that hate him. Hi, guys. I appreciate what you bring to the table. You know what? I love that you've got so much energy and passion. Oy vey, right? I told you I don't hate John. I don't. But you cannot get upset at me for getting upset at him. Seriously, okay? Please, don't tell me I don't get a Christmas card this year from you. You know I love you guys, right? Come on, don't give me too much grief here. Give me a break here. But what we're saying here, folks, is that everything's just going to go back to normal. John's probably going to win at Mania. That's it and that's all. You know, good night and go home, okay? But I will say this. For WWE to allow the spot with Stephanie to happen in the first place is huge. Why? Because for the first time, WWE's owners are questioning their top money maker on the air live, and they're doing it with the whole world watching. This, to me, is not an issue of storyline heels. This is not an issue of Triple H is the corporate heel and he's the big bad guy and he's a meaniehead and all the authority are all meanieheads. No, I'm sorry, man. I don't see it. I don't see it in that tone. And to me, it's not even back when Vince and Austin had their feud. I don't even look at it in that regard, because even even Vince as a heel would say, you know, I'm not going to take anything away from Stone Cold Steve Austin, but I hate him. You know, I'm not going to question what he could do in the ring, but I can't stand him. This is the McMahon family essentially saying, hey, John, you don't really represent us anymore. You can just go on and hit the road. Now, am I taking it too seriously? Absolutely, because I'm a wrestling analyst. It's my job to delve into every minute detail, expound on it, and explain it and give you my take on it. That's what I do, okay? And here's the thing. Again, this is WWE attacking their top guy, okay, with the whole world watching. This is not a matter of working an angle against John, not in my opinion. This is not about ripping on him, thus challenging his manhood and causing him to step up later. Oh, I'll come back from behind and I'll show them, because that's kind of John's shtick, right? He always gets beaten down. He's John Wayne of WWE, okay? He's John Wayne. And this is not that, in my opinion. This is not them saying, John, you might be tough, you might be the top guy, but we got something for you. Not at all. To me, this is the exact opposite. This is them not even recognizing that what John's position is. Okay. Did Stephanie mean that on a personal level? Get over yourself. We're not talking about personal. Stop making everything so friggin' real for yourselves. We're talking about storyline perspective. Okay. But how real is it to you? That's the question you got to ask yourself. Not only to you, to the guy sitting beside of you at the show, to the ones sitting beside of you on the couch, to the ones that read my columns, to me, to everyone around you. How real is it to everyone? How real is it to the WWE audience as a whole? That's what you have to ask yourself, man. Because if you don't know, you'll find out online the next day. And so far, everyone and their brother is talking about how, man, they think John's done. Wow, I didn't see that coming. And yeah, you're right, John is done. Screw John. And they're lighting the torches and they're grabbing the pitchforks. They're going to go grab John out of his $1 million home and, you know, go tar and feather him somewhere, poor guy. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. And that's how the reaction has gotten over from this spot. And people are looking at it and they're taking this stuff to heart, man. They really are. It's served its purpose in that regard, but has it gone too much over the top? In my opinion, WWE has asked for this. Okay, because allow the spot to Stephanie with Stephanie to happen is huge. Again, it's big time stuff. Okay, this is WWE telling its top star that he's done it all. There's nothing left for him to do. He's outlived his usefulness and overstayed his welcome, and now he's no longer needed. Think about that. Think about how big of a moment that is in this company on their TV and for John Cena. Think about that, folks. Now, again, you're telling me, Tom, calm down. It's not real. I get that. And I understand how this goes. This is not my first rodeo, okay? Yes, the McMahon family are all working heel at the moment. Yes, they are. And yes, this is all part of some grand plan to get John over at WrestleMania because it's going to show his resolve and spotlight his will to win again. Of course it is. But as we said, try reminding fans of all that now. Try reminding fans that Cena is still the top guy and will not be moving out of that spot unless someone takes it from him. And try as hard as you can to get the image of the New Jersey crowd that night agreeing with Stephanie out of their heads. Because the fact is, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Statement is reality. Perception is reality in the world of professional wrestling. Okay? Everything means something, especially in that company, because they are dissected. Everything is broken down by people like me, by other writers, by fans, by analysts, by every kind of website you can possibly imagine that's possibly online, even by any kind of writer that's even paying attention half the time. We dissect the information. We try to either pull something out of it, or some of my colleagues out there might try to give you some of the nuttiest, wackiest information they could possibly come up with. I say information very loosely, by the way. But the fact is, again, the point of all that is that everyone dissects everything that goes on in that company, okay? And perception is reality for pro wrestling fans all over the world. And it reminds me very much of Sgt. Pepper. For any music fans out there, and if you don't know what Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club is, then you know what? Turn this off because you're offending me greatly. Okay, I'll take that back. You can continue to listen and finish the program, but then turn it off. That's it. Tune in next time. Anyway, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, arguably the Beatles' most classic album of all time. There's a couple of others, but classic album of all time, and certainly in the top. I would dare say the top 5 best albums of all time ever made. Classic, okay. But here's the key. For any of you that know that album, and if any of you that are Beatles fans like I am, know this fact. According to John Lennon, none of the songs had anything to do with each other. They were all written independently of each other. But they were all working on these songs at sort of the exact same time, so they just made an album with them. They just put all the songs together. There was no pattern. They didn't fit together at all. In other words, you write Strawberry Fields, I'll write Penny Lane, and you get to work over here and get this one done. Let's go track by track by track, get the entire album recorded, and let's present it as a traveling band. And that's what it is. It's an old timey traveling band, Sgt. Pepper, and here's all their material. That's not what happened. According to John, the songs had nothing to do with each other, but because the Beatles said they did, because the Beatles said that they all meant something and were in direct correlation of each other, written and recorded in such a fashion to link together, that's the way it was. It became fact. Okay? Think of it in those terms. Because it's said on WWE, it comes out of a worker's mouth. It doesn't make a difference whether it's true or not. It's already being investigated, and a lot of people take it as fact. Okay? So even though a lot of us are fairly smart and know that what Stephanie said is all in this push to somehow spotlight John in a different way, to somehow maybe add new dimension to John's character. Fingers crossed on that one. They've tried that junk with us before and never delivered, okay? Hate to be so ill and negative about it, but they've done this stuff before. They had Kane come after him and it didn't turn him, and it, maybe not necessarily heel, but didn't really add any dimension to his character. Heyman has run him in the ground. Bray attacked him mentally. It didn't make a difference, man, because John is John all day long, 24/7, twice on Sunday, 8 days a week. I mean, that's how it is. It's never going to change, right? But maybe, just maybe, glimmer of hope here, time, folks, all right? Glimmer of hope that maybe that's what they're attempting to do, is add sort of another dimension, another aspect to John Cena's character by doing all of this with the Stephanie McMahon promo on this episode of Raw, okay? And we're all pretty smart out there, yes. We understand what the object of the game here is, and we know that it's all a work and it's yada, yada, yada. Let's move past that, though. And again, perception is reality. Whatever is said, whether it's real or not. But why is that? Okay, when you go to a movie, you don't think that. When you go to a movie, you don't really think that John Wick killed 47 people in 5 minutes. You don't believe that really happened. That's not the point. And people love to compare Hollywood big budget movies to WWE, and it makes sense in a lot of ways. I've done it myself. I've compared pro wrestling to a lot of things in life. I just compared it to an astronaut walking on the moon. How you like that? And the Beatles. There you go, folks. So I'll bite on that and say it's entirely possible. But the reason that people don't do that when they go to see a movie, when the movie's over, they walk out of the theater. They get back to their regular lives. Okay? For pro wrestling, it's a bit different because even when the show's over, they go online. They talk about it. They chat about it. Talk about what's going to happen next week. Can't wait to come back next week. Well, here's what happened. Let me tell you what I think happened. Yada, yada, yada. So it's a different kind of monster, okay? And that's how it is. And it's not going to change anytime soon. That's the world of WWE when it's episodic television and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And that's what we're talking about here, folks. That's what we're looking at, okay? And again, what we're talking about here is, do we know it's a work? Absolutely, okay? And do we know that what was said about John was not meant on a personal level? Do we know that what happened with what Stephanie said about John is not meant to, put him down? It's not meant to put down his fans. It's not meant to make him appear weak or anything like that. I was on a radio program recently on the Nick and Brian show. If you've not listened to the Nick and Brian show, go check it out because it's a pretty entertaining program. Hopefully they'll have me back on soon. It was a fun time. But the question was posed to me, do you think this is making John look weak? And I said, I don't know what they could do to make John look weak. I don't know how they could possibly hurt him, apart from having him come out on live TV and curse out a 5-year-old kid. I don't know what they could do to make John look like anything less than what he is, and that's their number one guy, the number one superstar, okay? But at the same time, I saw where they were going with it. It almost seems as though there is a concentrated effort being made with that promo and with other instances on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown at times, to make John appear like he's long in the tooth, he's getting near the end of his rope. I don't know if that's the right move, because this is the same guy that has merchandise to sell, right? This is the same company that puts him out there on the talk show circuit and radio shows and gets him in movies and, uses him on other platforms out there and uses him with the Make-A-Wish. And you want him, they want you to buy him as their top guy, but yet on live TV, they're kind of putting him down. So whether or not you believe that, I don't know. And it's not just Stephanie. They're feeding that stuff to the commentary team. So the commentary team's sitting there and kind of, sort of perpetuating the notion that Cena's best days are behind him. Okay? That's the issue here, folks. It's all becoming part of the package here. This promo is just one part of it. Some folks would say maybe it's the first shot fired. I don't know how I feel about that, but that's, it's entirely possible if you want to look at it in that regard. But here's the point I'm trying to make here, folks. Okay, so yes, the McMahon family is all working heel. We understand where they're coming from on all of that. Okay? But with one promo, with the Stephanie McMahon promo, WWE has validated everything that Cena's haters have been saying about him for years. Stephanie and Triple H have consistently attacked John verbally. This goes back to Austin and Vince, all right? They've consistently attacked Cena verbally, but they have always backed it up by recognizing his position, who he is, and what he's accomplished. But now, maybe it's just me. I don't think it is. But now, for me, something feels different. Okay? Now it's like it's like your favorite place to go. Okay? Vacation or place to eat. You haven't been there in a year or so, or whatever it is, 6 months or whatever, and then you go back. And you really want to have a good time, but something just feels different. You know what I mean? You can't quite explain it, but something's just off. You ever had one of those days where like you go to work or wherever it is you are and you walk in and something just doesn't feel right? That's the vibe I'm getting from this, man. That's the vibe I'm getting from this whole thing, is that something just feels different now. And let's be honest. Did I fall into getting worked? Maybe I did. Okay? But ask yourself this. If I can see that, and I can dissect it, and I can back up from it and tell you what I think I just saw and what I think's going on, how many people did go for it, cannot back up, and agree with everything she said? Was that the point? Was that the point? Do they want John to go out as being this feeble old man, which he's not, of course, but is that the object of the game? To send him packing and replace him with a stud like Roman or with Dean or whatever, or Seth, and leads you to believe that John's growing gray hair and he's going to be in a wheelchair sometime soon? Because that's what they're making it sound like, right? That his best days are behind him. It's over, man. Send him packing. Get him out of here. Is that what we're talking about? Because that's how it's starting to feel to me. You know what I mean? But again, the notion that John's, best era, the notion that John's position as Mr. WWE is over, and maybe he never really was to begin with, to me, that's something more than a heel would say. A heel would recognize who the man in front of him is. We've heard Flair cut promos before in his prime talking about, I got a lot of respect for Dusty Rhodes, but I'm taking him out. You know what I mean? It's sort of that thing where it's like two guys with respect for each other. And not every heel cuts a promo in that regard, but the best feuds and the most high profile feuds and rivalries and things of that nature, to me, have that aspect, that mutual respect, that mutual, not maybe admiration is too strong of a word, but you see where I'm coming from here, folks. The mutual understanding, when one guy can look at another and say, I respect you, I know where you're coming from. I'm gonna beat you, but I feel you, man. I feel you. I'm gonna take you out, but see what I'm saying? I didn't get that at all. I got the impression that they just completely disrespected him on live TV, because now it looks like John's out of options, right? He was kind of left standing in the ring, didn't know what to say to her. He looks like he's out of chances. It's always been said about Cena that he's the first guy in, the last one to leave. That he works harder and trains harder than anyone in the WWE locker room. But now there's no need for any of that. Why? Why is there no need for any of that, folks? Because now, who really cares? I mean, I'm not saying that that's what I feel and it's what I believe, but that's the sort of the vibe they gave out. Doesn't matter what John does, no matter how hard he works, doesn't make a difference. It doesn't really matter anymore because he's out of options. Who cares now? Who cares how hard he works to make you happy, to entertain you, to get over and to make that company prosper, to help them along and help them be the force they are in the industry? Who cares now? Because there's nothing left for him to do. Okay? Because honestly, think about this. Rewind for a second and think about the totality of John's career. Is there anything that John has not done? Is there anything that John has not done? I mean, seriously, folks. Okay, there's one title. There's one title of the modern era that John Cena has not held. You know what the belt is? Don't say to me the Divas Championship. Don't do it because, Nikki Bella's his girlfriend, so that's kind of a moot point. Okay, so what belt? The Intercontinental Championship. John's held every other title, active title, or you know what I mean, that's now or whatever. John's held every other belt except the Intercontinental Championship. He's done it all. That's every championship that company has that a male performer can hold, okay? Main event in WrestleMania, how many times now? Won the Royal Rumble. He's done it all. He's done it all that you can possibly do as a professional wrestler in that company. What has he not done? There's one thing. There's one thing that only one guy has ever done, ever. And you know what I'm getting ready to say, right? And don't go crazy on me, but you know where I'm going with this, right? John Cena has had every major shining moment imaginable in the industry and that company, with the exception of, and you know what I'm going to say here, right? You know where I'm going with this. With the exception of doing one thing that only one other guy has ever done in the history of the business of professional wrestling. Think about the gravity of that statement, man. Only one other guy has ever done this one other thing in the history of an entire business. Okay? The one thing John has left to do, and that's tie Ric Flair's record of 16 championships. The number 16 means so much if you're a pro wrestling fan. Go up to any pro wrestling fan. And I'm not talking about a 6-year-old. Actually, my kid's 6. He's pretty smart. He'd probably know right off the top of his head what 16 is, right? Yes, he would. Don't even play. But 16 championships. Go up to any pro wrestling fan, like I said, and tell me about the number 16. 16 championships, Ric Flair's record. That's it. But that's the only thing John has left to do. He's at 15. And is he going to hit 16? I've always said John would hit 20. I've always said WWE would put the mark so incredibly high that John would never be able to hit it. Okay, I'm sorry that no one behind John will ever be able to hit it. John's going to hit 20. I'm sorry. The point of the whole column was to look into John's immediate future, and I am, and I believe in what I wrote. But there's another side of me. Call it the Mr. Hyde or call it Mr. Negativity, whatever you want to call it. I don't believe that company's done enough to convince me that they're ready for the next level. I just don't know if they have. I like Roman. I think Roman's getting a lot better in the ring. I think the fact that his growth and his evolution is taking place before our very eyes is something new. Because the last guy for that to happen to was John. I mean, can we be honest? Because before then, you could say The Rock. Because by the time Austin got there and started coming up, he had already paid his dues. Jericho had paid his dues. Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, they had paid their dues already. But The Rock had come up, and we got to see him grow and evolve. We got to see John grow and evolve. Here's Roman growing and evolving right before our very eyes, okay? But I don't know, in my opinion, if I've seen enough. So there's a part of me that says John's going to hit 20. I'm sorry, it's kind of how I feel. But think about when he hits 16. That'll be a monumental episode of Raw. That Raw will be huge ratings. It will. The night that he wins the championship again for the 16th time. I mean, that's going to be major. If I'm John Cena, and this is just me talking, out of respect to Ric Flair, I wouldn't allow it to happen. Now, the company's got to do what's best for business. Great line, right? Which they always do. So chances are he's going to hit 16 and again, maybe even 20 at some point. But to me, if I'm John, I just don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to do that. Do you know what I mean? And, to me, it's akin to Barry Sanders walking away from the Detroit Lions because he didn't want to break the record out of respect. It was all about respect. And to me, it's very similar to that. Do you know what I mean? How do you tie the record? Maybe tying is okay, but breaking? Geez, that's such a big deal. But for anyone out there that's going to get upset over when it happens, and I don't want to veer away from the topic here, but for anyone out there that gets upset when it happens, try to keep it in perspective, okay? The NWA was a governing body of promoters from all over the country that they had to reach a decision of who the champion was going to be, and Rick got the nod. Okay, he had 2 championships in WWE, but 14 from the NWA, which at that time was the governing body, was the company on the planet for professional wrestling. All right, so 14 championships decided on by men in a room who made the decision. And all right, his title runs in WCW may or may not be part of that deal because then it became down to just a handful of guys that decided. But think about this. All of John's titles came from one guy. Digest that. That's the difference, okay? It's no disrespect to John. I'm not saying, well, John didn't work hard for his belts. Ha, ha, ha. I never said that. Anyone that questions John's work ethic has got to be out of their minds. I question his work in the ring. I'm never going to stop doing that because when I see a boring routine, I know what a boring routine is, and he's got a very boring, predictable routine. He does. Did Shawn Michaels do a lot of the same stuff in the ring? Yeah. Did Punk? Yeah. Did Triple H? Yeah. Does Bryan? Yes. But there's a lot more to go along with that. John doesn't have the ... You know what I'm saying? And he does this too. He doesn't have that. So, and everyone that loves John can get mad at that. That's a fact. You can't dispute that. Well, did you see the way he worked that chin lock? Come on, man. Just stop. Let me stop you and tell you you're going to sound ridiculous, so don't do that stuff with me, all right? Seriously. But by the way, I still love you, okay? You're listening to me, so you're a fan, so you're good with me. But again, folks, it's a different thing, different world than when Rick won his 16 championships. So when John ties and eventually breaks the record, don't get too upset over that, man. And it's not a big thing. I mean, it is, but it isn't. Ric Flair's number will always mean something. The Undertaker's undefeated streak will always mean something. The fact that Brock beat it, which I still to this day think that was a mistake. Because honestly, look at where Brock is now. Did beating the streak really help him get to this point? I mean, I think people took Brock pretty seriously. If Brock had done nothing but decimate John Cena SummerSlam 2014, he would still be taken seriously. Yes? So I don't know if he really needed to beat the Undertaker. So... nothing really to me is going to diminish Flair's 16 championships. That's just a sidebar on that. But this is what it all comes down to, folks. John Cena is the aforementioned astronaut. He's the astronaut that walked on the moon, and now he is forced to get back to life on this world with all the rest of it. He was the best of the best, and now he's just another hero on his way to the sunset of immortality. That's it. He got his ticker tape parade. The flags are being waved. They're giving him a hero's welcome. And then as soon as the caravan stops, he's got to get out of the car and go find something to do with the rest of his life and try to top what he just did. Never going to happen. You know what I'm saying? The movie that is coming out soon, Trainwrecked, with John, it's a very different character than what we've seen before. I mean, that's a big deal, man. It's a very different type of role for him. There could be a future for John in Hollywood. Some people would argue, especially non-wrestling fans, that The Rock has topped what he did in the business of professional wrestling. Now, ask Rock what he thinks about that. I don't know if I believe that or not, but it's all your opinion. It's all what you think, what you feel, right? It's all where you're coming down from. To me, I don't know if he topped it. I think he's done an impressive body of work in Hollywood. Maybe not in terms of Oscar-worthy performances, but the people that he's been beside of and acted with, and the opinion that people have of him personally as an actor has just grown exponentially. He's considered the top action guy in Hollywood. If he's not, he's at least in the top 3. Got to be, right? Who else is there? Him and Jason Statham, maybe a couple other guys, but Rocky's it. So there could be a future for John, but will he top 15, 16 championships and everything you could ever possibly do in the business of professional wrestling? Well, he's going to have to try to figure it out, because evidently the McMahon family's trying to tell you and me and everyone else is within earshot that John's done. Okay? Because the entire scenario I just described for you, the ticker tape parade, John's riding off in the sunset, and that's going to be it. He's got to find something to do with the rest of his life. Go be happy and play house with Nikki, right? That's what WWE will have us believe. The funny part to this whole thing is that eventually Cena's going to have to step aside for the next top guy. Storyline's going to become reality. That next top guy, $10 says it's going to be Roman. Okay, that's where my money's at right now. It's where everybody's money's at. Last year at this time, March of last year, I said the same thing. Roman's your next top guy. People didn't really care about that all that much. I mean, they didn't hate him at that time like they do now. But it's like, Tom, it's blah blah blah. Let's just get back to watching wrestling. But I did try to tell you. I'm just saying. Okay, give me a break here, folks. But WWE wants you to believe that this is the end of the road for John. Okay, Boyz II Men are going to come out and sing, end of the road, and that's going to be it. It's a hero's salute. Goodbye, John. Thanks for playing. Now get out. Okay, but is that going to happen? Yeah, eventually. I don't think it'll. People have asked me before, how do you think it's going to be? Is it going to be a goodbye, get out? No, it's not going to happen. I think that he'll just sort of over time scale back. It'd be interesting if they didn't do that way with him, if they just suddenly pulled him. Now, try pulling John Cena off TV and off live events and see how quickly the ticket sales drop. There's your problem, like we talked about before. WWE has created one top guy and no one else. And again, love me some Ziggler, love me some Bryan. I'm a fan of Ambrose and Seth, but dude, come on. If you pull any of those guys from live events, you pull any of those guys from TV, you're not going to have fans getting up and walking out. Okay? John brings ticket sales. John brings attention. John brings money. John brings ratings. Okay? And until anyone can convince me that that's not the case anymore, and convince you because you know it's true, then it's not going to change anytime soon. Okay? Because no matter what happens, he's still the top guy. And yes, the moment will come, of course, that he's going to be stepping aside. But in the meantime, John is just kind of there, taking up space, standing in the ring, not knowing what to say to Stephanie, and kind of living off what he's done before. Because every promo now, same promo he's been cutting for 6 years or so, is I will fight, I will never back down, I will never surrender. Blah! And he's screaming at you and stuff. And, this is 2 minutes after he pokes fun and tells the worst jokes of all time. But that promo is the same shit he's been doing for a while, because now it just sounds like he's kind of living on his past glory. It no longer sounds like a John Wayne I will rise from the dead speech, rah team. Now it sounds like he's just kind of living in the past, what he did before. But he's come back down to earth now, right? WWE's seen to that. Thank you, Vince McMahon. Thank you, Stephanie McMahon, for getting on live TV and convincing us all, or attempting to convince us all, that, it's the end of the road for John Cena. it's such a deep topic, okay? Because there's so many people out there that hate on John. So many people out there that criticize his every move. Dude, I have written so many columns about John. Can I be straight with you? There was a period of time when I quit writing about him. I just stopped, writing for Bleacher Report. I get to pitch a column and we kind of spitball and we maybe tweak the headline and we go from there. And then other sites I write for, I'll come up with my own work or whatever, my own ideas and just kind of go from there. I quit writing about John for a long time because in the comments section it became increasingly difficult, increasingly harder each and every time out to sit there and read the same comments every stinking time. You know what I mean? Because people just love him or hate him. And so if I said something good, they wanted to string me up. If I said something bad, they wanted to string me up. You can't win. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what you do when you write or talk about John Cena. You're going to be wrong like every time, man. You'd have to be in a room full of haters and say something good to get all the... You see what I'm saying? Or be in a room full of haters and say something bad to get a lot of pat on the back, man. Just to get people, oh yeah, you're the best writer ever, Tom. Yeah. I mean, it's just silly. The hate against this guy is silly. I've never once questioned what he does for that company. I've questioned with great intensity, however, over the years, why they choose to never do anything with him. Don't turn him heel. I don't care. Don't make him change his color to all black. Don't put him in a Hall and Nash situation or Hollywood Hogan. I don't care. It's fine. That ship sailed probably, what do you want to say, 4 years ago, give or take. I mean, it's over. It's okay, man. I'm not even losing sleep over it anymore. If you are, shame on you. You should know better by now. Dude, seriously, get over yourself. So, I mean, the whole I'm going to turn here, or he should turn here, just stop it. Just stop it. You sound ridiculous. Seriously, man, you sound ridiculous, okay? Let's just get over ourselves and all that stuff, okay? Here's the thing. The fact that, again, they've never done anything to tweak his character. He's the same guy. I mean, Dusty Rhodes was the same guy, yes, but every time Dusty went through a war, you saw it on his face. He carried the scars of that war with him, and the promos he would cut after the feud was over was never, yeah, I beat Ric Flair, what about it? No, it was... he paid respect to Flair and he talked about how hard it was and how life kept trying to drag him down. But, he's the dream. He's going to get back up. And it's, he never made fun of his opponents. I mean, occasionally he would make fun and stuff like that, but never to the extent of what John does. John does to the point like he doesn't take his opposition seriously. And Dusty was always very focused. So, I mean, you could make the comparisons there and say that, Dusty and John are similar in that respect. That Dusty was a top guy and was unaffected. I never saw him as being unaffected. I really felt like, again, that he carried the scars of every feud he was ever involved in with him as a character throughout the rest of his career. And to me, it showed. Physically, as he got a little bit older, he started to slow down. His face started to sag a little bit more. And he just was tired. And it just became, man, the years have really done it to him. You know what I mean? Not only do I not see that with John at all, he looks as fresh and as happy as he did the day they made him the top guy, man. The day he went over on JBL, he's still smiling. He's still waving the hand in front of his face. You can't see me, you can't see me. Oh my God. Just unbelievable stuff, man. Dude never changes. He never changes. I mean, how many friends do you have that have never changed? How many of you out there can say that you have never changed, that life has never changed the way you think about something? You may have been, you took one stance politically 3 years ago, now you've changed your mind. You may have had one opinion on how to raise your kid 2 years ago, now you've tweaked it and you've changed it. I mean, how many people out there stay exactly the same from the time they're born to the time they die? Because John Cena is a character, from the time he's born to the time he dies, more than likely he's never going to change. That's not reality. That's my biggest gripe with that company in terms of what John Cena does or does not do. It's not realistic in the slightest. Okay. But, again, John catches grief. He's caught some from me. I've written a lot about him. It's a catch-22. Anytime you write about John, you can't win for losing. So despite what happens, he is always going to be, a focal point of that company. He's always going to be a lightning rod for controversy. Michael Cole's going to do everything in his power to convince you that John has so much heart. He's got more heart than anybody in the locker room, and maybe he does. But at the end of the day, it's still a hard sell for those of us who are like, look, I don't dislike you, John. I actually like you. But stop with this. Give me something different. You know what I mean? Fans want something different. If you had to poll a group of fans and say, would you like to see the same thing this week that you saw last week? In my estimation, my opinion, half those fans are going to raise their hand and say, nah, dude, I want something different. Give me something different. So, I mean, does he make money? Absolutely. Is he the top guy? Absolutely. Is he everything and anything, everything to that company that they want, that they need? Yes. Have they hurt him from a character perspective by allowing Stephanie to say what she said on live TV? In my opinion, in the long run, yes, they will, because now the questions are being asked. Does WWE even have faith anymore in John? Because all this talk is being done at the exact same time that Roman Reigns is coming up, that they're trying to convince you that you should love Roman and pull for Roman because he's our guy. I mean, they're not telling you that about Randy. They're no longer telling you that about Daniel. They're telling you that about Roman. So, it just depends on where you come from on this whole thing, whether or not you hate John, whether or not you agree that Stephanie's hurt and that company has hurt him in the long run. Who knows? But to me, from what I'm seeing, I don't think it was the best move, okay? Because you've got a lot of people now questioning the wrong things. To me, you need to be questioning, man, how can John come back from this? You know what I'm saying? But can we be honest? That ship has probably sailed. When you kick out of as many finishing moves as he has, when you've done as much stuff as he has, when you've beaten everyone on the planet as he has, okay? Then what's left? How can you even believe that John Cena can't come back from something? I've always said, you could drop a plane on this guy, he'd kick out at two. It doesn't matter what you do, because and is that John's fault? Rewind for a second. Is that John's fault? No, of course it's not. That's WWE doing that. That's WWE leading you to believe that John Cena cannot lose. Because no matter how many people think otherwise, I think there's a lot of people out there right now that think eventually John's going to beat Brock again, and get the belt back. I mean, crazy. I mean, Brock Lesnar became the guy that destroyed John Cena. John couldn't beat him, and I don't think that they'll ever let that lay there. I think that they're going to come back and they're going to maybe revisit that at some point, depending on what Brock does. Brock may be the subject of the next podcast. Who knows? But isn't that a good segue? Folks, we've been together almost an hour here. And again, it's been a while since we talked. So we're hoping that you enjoyed this one. Okay? I encourage you to go do your own research about John. Don't take what I say or what anyone says about John as the gospel truth. You can go around telling your friends that you just listened to the best podcast ever made, which is a fact, okay? But, go with your gut on this. Go and watch that promo. If you haven't seen it but once, go watch it again. Watch John's facial expressions. Watch everything in the feud with Rusev. It truly feels as though they're trying to get to a point, and who knows? It could very well be that John is behind a lot of that rhetoric to begin with. Maybe John's saying, look, this is how I'd like to go out, okay? Be very sure of this. If you don't hear anything else I'm going to say, to the rest of this little podcast here, hear this. WWE will not make a move until they're ready, because they learned the hard way when Hogan's time came and went, and they tried their best to replace with Brett and Shawn. All due respect to Brett and Shawn, the company saw some hard times during that time, okay? Because they had to condition their crowds to become accustomed to Brett and Shawn, because they had conditioned their crowds for years that they had to be in love with a blonde-haired, big, muscled-up guy that just could not be beat. And if he was, he would come right back for more. He always smiled. He always said the right things. He always made you feel good about yourself, and you always believed in him, that he was, perfect outside the ring. He was clean-cut, he was wholesome, and he was all-American, and, he loved life. And I'm not talking about John. Do you see how close that is? That's the same deal to me, man, because now WWE has to retool. They have to revamp. They have to rewind. They have to rebuild. And they have to do everything in their power to condition their crowds. And they've been trying to buy into another type of top guy. That John's time is going to come to an end. And again, is it against John? Not at all. I think that if anyone does remember anything, people remember about John that he did work hard to get to where he's at. But I think that's all they'll remember about him in terms of something being positive. That and the Make-A-Wish stuff. Because there's just so much heat on John for so many different things through the years, because of his work in the ring, because of his stale character. And is that fair? Probably not, but that's reality, man. But that's what we're looking at, folks, is the fact that that company has got to recondition, got to revamp, got to, again, rebuild. Because they got to get out of people's heads that John is the end-all, be-all, that he's going to be here for another 10 years. Because he's not. Just realistically speaking, he might be affiliated with the company 10 years from now, but he's not going to be in the ring. I don't think he will be anyway. But that's just me talking. Look at the guy right now. He's a stud. He's a workhorse in terms of his body. Look at him physically. Jeez. Right? Doesn't look old at all. He still looks 20 years old to me, right? But perception's reality, folks, as we said before. What are you thinking about that? What's your opinion on it? Where do you come off on this whole subject? Hit me up. Send me some questions at Yahoo. TomClarkBR@yahoo.com. Okay? Wink, wink on that one. And also follow me on Twitter at TomClarkBR. And of course, please feel free to check me out other places. I'd tell you to check me out on Facebook, but I'm pretty boring over there. But again, don't forget my website, folks. Please give me a visit, tomclarkbr.wix.com/blog. Bleacher Report also is where I hang my hat, as well as whatculture.com and the illustrious Camel Clutch blog. I'm kind of all over the place. It's what I do. It's what I have fun at. It's what I have a blast at. So thank you, folks, for tuning in. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for allowing me to come back into your ears again and try to entertain you. And it's been far too long. I owe you flowers next time. Let's just be honest here, folks. And again, thanks for listening. Thanks for coming along on the ride. And we're going to come back and do it real soon. Hold me to that. Let me know. I want some feedback from you guys out there, man. Let me know. Tom, we missed you. Dude, what's up? Quit letting us down, man. I want to know that you want me. I want you to want me. Please love me. Love me. Okay, man, that's it. I'm done. That's it. I'm taking it home, man. I tugged my ear. I told the ref, take it home. We're done. Get out of here. Go watch that promo. Go watch some WWE. Better yet, depending on where you're at right now, what night or what day it is, go watch some local pro wrestling, man. Support your local indie promotions. And please remember to keep supporting me. I need all the help and support and love I can get, man. And remember to vote Tom in 2016 because every vote counts, people. That's it, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your business. Come back as always. And we will be here next time for Tom Clark's main event.